It's a feeling that's flowing like a river. Time to swap them dollar signs for dreams. There's a river running through it and it flows through you and me.
Welcome to Water Planet News. I'm John Osborne, broadcasting from Spokane, Washington. In the autumn of 1805, Lewis and Clark canoed down the Snake River to its confluence with the Columbia. There they found abundant runs of salmon and Indian nations that lived with the river. In about 200 years, the blink of an eye, profound changes have occurred to this river. In part, the consequence includes potential extinction for the salmon of the Snake River. Efforts are underway. Let's turn now to the story about these salmon and Oregon Governor Kitzhaber's efforts to bring people together to find a solution. Here to tell us that story is Sam Mace, Save Our Wild Salmon.
My name is Sam Mace, and I'm with the Save Our Wild Salmon Coalition, which is a group of organizations that include commercial fishermen, sport fishing businesses and groups, and conservation organizations working to restore wild salmon to the Columbia Basin. Historically, up to 30 million wild salmon and steelhead entered the Columbia River, the mouth of the Columbia River, every year before Lewis and Clark arrived. And in the course of the centuries of development here in the West, we've seen the numbers of wild salmon and steelhead plummet to 1 to 2% of those historic numbers. And in addition to development and grazing and logging and overfishing at the turn of the century, the primary reason, one of the main reasons why we have seen this steady decline in our wild salmon is because of the number of large dams we've built up both the Columbia River and the lower Snake River. And our coalition specifically has focused on the Snake River system in the last couple decades because the Snake River Basin of Idaho, Northeast Oregon, Southeast Washington holds the biggest piece of intact salmon habitat left in the lower 48. But we have this problem of the salmon being able to make it up to those streams and the young salmon that are born in those rivers up in Idaho in the Snake River Basin making it downstream to come back and replenish the populations. And the main reason is because of these dams we've built, and in particular these 4 deadly dams on the lower Snake River that have been the death knell to our wild salmon here in the inland Northwest. So our coalition has been working to look at ways that we can remove the 4 lower Snake River dams and replace the small amount of energy, the transportation, and other benefits that those dams provide with better, affordable, and clean energy alternatives. So we've been working with farmers, we've been working with energy users, we've been working with local communities to have that conversation about how we can restore our salmon, restore the lower Snake River, and make sure that those stakeholders are taken care of as well. We've been pushing our elected leaders here in the region for a long time to get us past this impasse that we've had as salmon plan after salmon plan has been ruled illegal in the courts, and we just continue to see our wild salmon decline. And making sure that we get a legal salmon plan is really important, and that court fight remains important, but at the same time we need to start bringing all the stakeholders together to look at our long-term solutions of how we can restore these salmon and how we can find other ways of meeting our transportation and energy needs. And we were really encouraged to see Governor Kitzhaber of Oregon come out and support a stakeholder process to bring everyone together in the region and have a conversation about how we can solve this crisis. And, we want to see and hope that dam removal is one of those options that's looked at. Certainly other options will be on the table as well, but we feel confident that we can, if we come together with the objective economics and looking at the science, find a path forward that restores our river and our wild salmon. This issue goes beyond just restoring our wild salmon, which certainly is the biggest question and biggest crisis point that such a process needs to address. But at the same time, we have these larger issues that are wrapped up in the future of the Lower Snake River and the future of those 4 dams that go beyond salmon. They're about economic development in riverside towns like Lewiston, that are about how do we address and pay for aging infrastructure, and how do we maintain and find the money in this day and age with shrinking budgets to maintain this dam system and keep both the public safe, our communities safe, and our fish and wildlife safe. And one of the pieces, as an example, that's becoming abundantly clear is that we're not going to have the money to take care of all the hydro system, all the dams, all the locks, all the barge systems across the country. And we need to start looking at which ones do we need and should be part of a modern economy, and which are just outdated technology, frankly, and that it would be in our best interest, as well as the best interest of the salmon, to find a way to decommission and remove. And the 4 Lower Snake River dams are prime candidates for that. They're aging dams, they're coming to the end of their lifespan, there's sediment problems that are creating flood risks for Lewiston, and it's a navigation system of allowing barges to go down the river that's becoming very outdated. We're already seeing farmers in the region switching to rail, switching to truck, because it's far more competitive, more efficient, and can be more affordable. So these are some of the larger questions that we want to see a process convened in the region address, because they're very important to our communities here. And if we're going to save the salmon, we have to address these other issues as well. It's a really important time if you care about salmon and steelhead, if you care about the future of towns like Lewiston, to stand up and talk to your elected leaders about this. We really need citizens talking to Governor Kitzhaber's fellow elected leaders in the region, the Governor of Washington, Senator Murray, Senator Cantwell, and other elected officials in the region, to encourage them to support a stakeholder process, and one that is science-driven, that is transparent, and that has all options on the table, including dam removal. And we really hope that in 2013, whatever next presidential administration there is, and the elected officials here in the region can come together and make that go forward and support Kitzhaber and his call. Again, this isn't just about the very important biological values and cultural values that these wild and salmon steelhead have for us here in the region and for the tribes, but it is really an issue of economics and jobs. We have a lot of communities and towns from Idaho to Astoria that depend on salmon and steelhead for jobs in their local economies, whether it be commercial fishing or recreational fishing. And these are important jobs culturally, important to these communities financially, and we think that there's a path forward where we can have wheat and wild salmon on our plate into the future, that we can have farming here, but we can also make room for salmon and the jobs that the salmon provide.
Thank you, Sam. To learn more about Save Our Wild Salmon, visit their website or contact Sam Mace directly. And that's today's program. Thank you for listening. And thank you for caring about water, about the land, and about the future of our communities.
It's a feeling that's flowing like a river. Time to swap them dollar signs for dreams.